What's up, y'all? Welcome back to a brand new video, first video of 2024. But I'm actually going to be talking about some stuff from 2023. I am going to be doing my new movie ranking of 2023. That hat just fell. That's so funny because it hasn't fallen. I don't know when the last time it fell was, but I guess it's because I'm sitting here. But the this video, I'm going to be reviewing all of the movies that came out in 2023 that I saw. So this is going to be a pretty long video because I saw a lot of new movies this year, either in theaters or on streaming or whatever. And so I saw 34 movies that came out in 2023 in 2023. And only movies that I watched in 2023 are eligible because, yes, I've already watched two 2023 movies in 2024, but I'm not counting those because this is already a really long list. Hey, future Shane here. Like 30 minutes in the future, I got done recording and I'm about to start editing, and I realized this. Before we get into the list, there's one movie that I watched that I did not put on this list, and I didn't put it intentionally. I did mean to say something and then I forgot. That is Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour. Went and saw it in theaters twice, which I think that was the only movie I saw in theaters twice this year. Loved it. It was spectacular, but I didn't feel like it qualified for this list since the rest of these are like stories that are being told. Oh, don't believe me, stories were told during the Eras Tour, but you know what I mean. That was a documentary style movie just of the concert. I loved it. We're a big Swiftie household here, but I didn't feel like it qualified for this list. Meant to say that here, so I'm saying it right here. Okay, back to past Shane. So let's just get right into it. Number 34, the worst movie I saw this year was Asteroid City. So it was Wes Anderson period comedy about a town that they're famous for an asteroid, but it's also a play about the town. It's not actually. And so this was last and certainly least for me. I had high expectations for this movie because, I mean, Wes Anderson, I usually enjoy his work. The cast was like, I want you to go look up this movie and just look at the cast, or you know what, I'll do it since I'm right here, and so that way you don't have to look stuff up during my YouTube video. I'm gonna read you this cast, okay? Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, Jeffrey Wright, Tilda Swinton, Bryan Cranston, Edward Norton, Adrian Brody, Liev Schreiber, Hope Davis, Stephen Park, Rupert Friend, Maya Hawke, Steve Carell, Matt Dillon, Hong Chow, Willem Dafoe, Margot Robbie, Tony Revolori, Sophia Lillis, Jeff Goldblum. Like, that's a really good cast, right? A lot of good names. It took me 3 separate sessions to watch this movie all the way through it because I was just like, I would watch for an hour, 30 minutes, whatever. Be like, no, I just can't watch anymore. There's just too much going on. The story had too much going on. There was too many characters, I think, where there was just too much going on. And it didn't need to be a play about the town. Just make it about the town. It wasn't funny at all. And I know Wes Anderson is like quirky, but this movie was just too quirky and just too weird. So some of these I'm going to be able to fly through a little quicker, just because like the mid ones, like there's only so much I can say. But number 33 is You People. So this is the Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy movie. It came out at the beginning of the year. It's a rom-com about a white Jew, Jonah Hill, falling in love with a black girl who's from the Nation of Islam. Her dad is Eddie Murphy. They're falling in love. Each of their families are extremely prejudiced and pretty much racist towards the other people, but it's very like passive racism. It's not like outright. And so to me, that feels like a strong premise, but this movie just didn't deliver at all on the comedy front, which is, I mean, that's all it had going for it with a Jonah Hill, Eddie Murphy. Felt like weak performances from what felt was a pretty decent cast. Would not, I don't know what just happened to my brain right there. I would not recommend this movie. Number 32 is 80 for Brady, which this movie, I'll say this. I didn't have any high expectations for this movie. It was late one night. Destiny was about to fall asleep, so we were like, we'll just put on a random movie. 80 for Brady popped up. We'll watch that. So like this one was as good as I expected it to be. 4 old ladies that want to go watch Tom Brady. Obviously, it's a really great cast, but it felt like it wasn't really necessarily a strong performance from any of the ladies: Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, Rita Moreno, Sally Field. Okay concept, okay execution, below average movie. Number 31, Your Place or Mine, another rom-com for this year. There's going to be quite a few rom-coms on here about 2 best friends who are actually in love. Um, many of the rom-coms I saw this year were pretty mid. There were a couple that were good. This one was pretty bad. There was very little chemistry, I thought, and I think most people thought, between Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon, and they didn't even have very much screen time together. It felt like Reese Witherspoon had more chemistry with Jesse Williams, whatever. Number 30, Transformers Rise of the Beast. So, yes, I know this feels really low, but maybe my expectations for this movie were too high, even though I don't really feel like I had expectations for it. Anthony Ramos was good. All the voice cast, Pete Davidson, all the people that they brought in to voice the Beasts, Ron Perlman, Michelle Yeoh, whoever else, they all did a great job. But overall, this movie was disappointing. The action is the main thing you're looking for, and I didn't think it was great. The writing was exactly what you'd expect, and there were multiple moments where I just audibly laughed, and not in a good way. Like at the end when they had like the spoiler alert, he was like getting recruited by GI Joe. That, like, I laughed out loud while I was watching it. Number 29, No Hard Feelings. So there's a couple R-rated rom-coms that came out last year, and one of them was this one. I think it's a funny concept with Jennifer Lawrence, and what's the actor's name? Andrew Barth Feldman, I think is his name, and like her getting paid to date him and do other stuff with him before college. But the execution wasn't there for me. I thought it was pretty underwhelming. And I guess them not ending up together at the end, it was, again, a spoiler, was a nice little change of pace for a rom-com, but it wasn't enough to redeem it. There was a few good jokes here and there, but I don't know. I from the trailers, I expected this movie to be a lot funnier than it was. Number 28, Happiness for Beginners. This one isn't as well known, I think. I think it's based on a book. It's just another rom-com about two acquaintances getting to know each other and they're part of like a nature walk, hike type thing with a group of people. The main girl is, crap, I just forgot her name. I'm just gonna look it up, so I'm not sitting here struggling. I can picture her. She's in The Office. She's Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. What's her name? Ellie Kemper. And this was a better movie than I thought it was going to be, just because I didn't know anything about it, and usually that's not a good thing. But it was just it's a tier above the last two. The last two were bad. This one was just like, it was okay. Like, it was a very Hallmarky type movie. Few good laughs. Okay movie overall. Number 27 was Murder Mystery 2. This one just didn't live up to the first one. I thought the first one was really good. My wife and I, we love a good murder mystery comedy, especially. And that is literally what this is. I mean, it's in the name, Murder Mystery 2. But it was not great. I had to look up what the plot was when I was doing this video, because I genuinely couldn't even remember like what it was about. I kept thinking, oh, this is what happened. And my washer just went off. It's really loud and obnoxious. But I couldn't even remember what the problem they were solving in this movie was. I love Adam Sandler. I love Jennifer Aniston. And Adam Sandler had a few movies this year. Unfortunately, because of Netflix changing their password sharing, I didn't get to watch Leo, the animated one, which I was really excited for. So it's not on this list. I'm hoping I'll get to watch that soon. Anyways, this movie, that was at 27. 26 is Shooting Stars. So this one, I don't know how well known this is. It's like this movie was. It was just it's a story about LeBron James in high school and his teammates and his high school team. I love me some LeBron. I thought this movie was good, all things considered. Like, I love LeBron, and I think he was probably executive producer on this. I wasn't expecting this to be a good movie. There was a lot of young, fairly new actors though, who I thought gave great performances. There was a couple like younger, more experienced actors, even though they were young, like Caleb McLaughlin from Stranger Things. Then there was some older actors like Dermot Mulroney and Wood Harris, who I thought gave good performances. The other young guys who I didn't really know as much, Mookie Cook, Avery Willis, Khalil Everidge, they all gave great performances. I think Khalil Everidge might be in Cobra Kai. But honestly, I thought my highlight was Scoot Henderson was in it as Romeo Travis, and he was by no means like the best actor at all, but he did really good for someone that's not an actor. So that's my highlight from that movie. It's definitely not a movie for the ages, but it was good. Number 25, Candy Cane Lane. This movie was a good new watch for the holiday season. Eddie Murphy, and Tracy Ellis Ross, they were both really funny. But it's definitely not going to make my Christmas rotation. I probably will never watch it again, which that's how I determine how good a Christmas movie is usually, is like how keen am I to rewatch this every year. It was an interesting new concept, which I respect in a Christmas movie, but that's really all it had going for it. Yeah. Number 24, Love Again, a little rom-com drama with Priyanka Chopra Jonas and Sam Heughan and, of course, Celine Dion. Not a bad rom-com. It was very sweet, very emotional, had a great message about two people that were having to learn to love again for different reasons. And we're about to go on a little rom-com trip here. I think the next three are also rom-coms, so fasten your seatbelts for that. Number 23, Xmas, a Christmas rom-com, yay. So for what this movie is, it was clever and creative. The stars were Robbie Amell and Leighton Meester. I thought they had good chemistry. That being said, similar to Candy Cane Lane, it's not going to make my list of Christmas watches. Not a bad movie. It's worth watching if you enjoy a cheesy romance. That I think it's better than just like a Hallmark Christmas movie, but still not like great. Number 22 is Ghosted, another middling rom-com, but was by no means bad, but it definitely was not great. It was comedic, but maybe a little stiff on their performances from Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, but they're still good actors, so they held their own. Being an action rom-com really is what set it apart. The action wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. There was some fun cameos in there from like Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, Ryan Reynolds, but very, very mid. Number 21, Puppy Love. So this was the best rom-com of 2023 that I saw in 2023. And the reason I'm saying it like that is because, like I said, I watched a couple 2023 movies in 2024, specifically Anyone But You, which would have been the best rom-com of 2023. But I didn't see it until January 1st, so it didn't qualify. Anyways, Puppy Love, very charismatic and charming, Grant Gustin and Lucy Hale. Everyone loves a good dog movie. It's about their dogs falling in love, and they hate each other. But then, obviously, spoiler alert, they fall in love. I think this qualifies as a good dog movie. But number 20, Gran Turismo, which, if you didn't know, is based on a true story. I think if you combined all the times I saw this trailer, I spent more time watching it than the actual movie, just because every time I went to the movie theater through, I don't know when this movie came out, like September, I think, it was every time I saw the trailer for it. But all jokes aside, it was a great movie. It was a pretty good movie, not a great movie. They did a great job on the racing scenes. Me speaking as someone who's not a racing fan, I thought they did. Cool story, cool movie. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Number 19 is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So personally, I'd say that this is the fourth best Indiana Jones movie after the original trilogy. It wasn't bad. It had the fun Indiana Jones adventure and action. I'm going to tell you my gripes with this movie, though. So I know Indiana Jones has always been like the adventure movie, and then there's some fantastical elements melded into that. I know that's always been Indiana Jones, whether it's the religious thing in the first couple movies, or then it becomes more like Aliens, which obviously isn't great. But to me, this was more on the aliens in the Crystal Skull with the, spoiler alert, time travel. That's just too much for like. That's, to me, that's just another like level that it didn't need to go to. Also, my main complaint though was the de-aging at the beginning of the movie was really bad. They did it for way too long. It would have been fine if it was like a 30-second scene, but instead it was like a 10-minute scene, and it was just that I didn't like that. Number 18, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So I don't think this movie is bad, but it's definitely not great for an MCU movie. It's definitely one of their worst entries. That being said, I'm a big Marvel fan, so that's probably why I have it higher. Definitely wasn't their best work. There's one main reason for me that it still placed this high, and it's solely Paul Rudd. He carried, and I have a feeling this movie is going to age even worse, because I mean the MCU and Kang and all that with Jonathan Majors is so up in the air. I mean, it's not up in the air. He's not going to be Kang, but what they do with Kang is up in the air. But it was an all right movie. Number 17, White Men Can't Jump. So first let me say that I thought this was better than the original movie. The reason for that is because I think The original one now, it's just like, oh, it's nostalgic. Wasn't nostalgic for me because I wasn't alive and hadn't seen it until I watched it before I watched this one. But yeah, I said it. I liked this one better. Jack Harlow was absolutely hilarious in this. I loved his like he was so funny, and I'm not necessarily a fan of him. Like I don't have any quarrel with him, but I'm not necessarily a fan. But he was so good in this. This was a hilarious movie. It had good, believable basketball scenes, which can again make or break a sports movie. Is how good the sports scenes are. The original one had good basketball scenes. This one had good basketball scenes. This was a good movie. Number 16, Meg to the Trench. Okay, so let me tell you about this. This has been my wife and I's measuring stick for movies this year. This movie was perfect. And I mean that in the sense that it was everything that I wanted in this from this movie. It was about giant sharks and Jason Statham fighting those sharks, and it delivered on that perfectly. It was exactly what we wanted. And so that was just my wife and I's measuring stick with everything, like, because we know that it's just a silly, mind-numbing movie. And if you just want a silly, mind-numbing, fun movie, this is it. If you want to watch a couple of them, do it back-to-back. I think they're on HBO Max or whatever it's called. Meg and Meg to the Trench. It's like if you want a silly shark movie about giant sharks attacking people, this is perfect for that. And also shout out to Pippin the dog, who is the real star of these movies. But anyways, number 15, Elemental. I honestly don't have a ton to say about Elemental. I can sum it up pretty easily. It was pretty good. Not Pixar's best work, but by no means their worst work. Good love story. It was a good story where you know how Pixar usually includes more adult elements. In this one, the more adult element was like immigration and I don't know if segregation is the right word as well. But the different classes, different people. It was visually stunning. It was funny. Definitely worth a watch, I believe, on Disney Plus. I'm just promoting all these streaming services that maybe they should give me free subscriptions to all of them. And then I could watch Leo on Netflix if Netflix would give me one. Number 14 is The Little Mermaid. So I definitely think this is one of the better live-action Disney adaptations. I hope I'm not talking. I just realized I'm probably talking really fast, but that's just because I don't want this to be a super long video. Like I know it's probably going to be kind of long, but I don't want it to be super long. Anyways, this is one of the better Disney live adaptations. Just because those are pretty hit or miss, but this one had good songs. The old songs, I think they adapted well. The new songs, I think were all pretty good and entertaining. I think Halle Bailey was great as Ariel. I think she really embodied the character, especially how impressive it was for half the movie, or maybe over half the movie, around half the movie. She couldn't talk. Kind of that's the story, but she did so good. The rest of the cast was also really good, especially obviously Javier Bardem and Melissa McCarthy were both good. Jonah Hauer-King, the guy that played Prince Eric, I really enjoyed. But the voice work of Jacob Tremblay and Daveed Diggs and Awkwafina I thought was good. I honestly would probably prefer to watch this one over the animated one going forward. Number 13, the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The only way that I can describe this movie is that if you like Mario, you'll like this movie. And it's as simple as that. I liked Mario. I don't love Mario, but I liked this movie. I enjoyed it. The voice cast, I think, was perfect. Yeah, I said it. Me personally, not a Chris Pratt hater. I understand people's maybe overexposure to him. I thought he did a good job. The rest of the voice cast as well: Charlie Day, Anya Taylor-Joy, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key. I feel like I'm forgetting someone big, but oh well. But I really enjoyed this movie. The animation also was extremely well done, I thought. So yeah. Number 12, Blue Beetle. I think this might be my favorite of the DCEU movies. I have not seen Aquaman 2, but I have a feeling it probably won't beat out this one. And then I guess that's the end of the DCEU. I'm glad that they're keeping Jolomar Dueña in the new DC universe because he was just so good. Also, I hope I pronounced his name correctly. George Lopez was obviously hilarious. Those are the highlights for me. It was a good, endearing superhero movie, but more than anything at its core, it was a good family movie about family and the importance of that. Also, I thought his suit was really cool. I think it was one of the better live action superhero suits, period. I thought it was really cool. Number 11. This might be a little shocking. This was one of my big surprises of 2023. You're so not invited to my bat mitzvah. This movie was hilarious. At first I was like, oh, it's Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler's the main character because I hadn't watched the trailer. I just knew it was an Adam Sandler movie. Then when we started watching it, like a couple minutes in, I was like, oh, this is not about Adam Sandler. He's just the dad. It's about the daughters. His daughters, specifically, I want to make sure I get the right one. I think it's Sunny. You're so not invited to my bat mitzvah. Sorry, I just want to make sure I get the right daughter here. Yes, Sunny Sandler. I thought she was so good. I think she should overcome any critiques for being a nepo baby in this because she really held her own. I personally have never been a middle school girl, but I thought it was relatable in the sense of being not only just a middle schooler, but just someone of any age trying to be cool, trying to fit in. I thought it was a great movie. And it was I think probably one of my big surprises of 2023, maybe the biggest. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Number 10. This is another one of my big surprises of 2023. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This movie, hold on, let me look something up real quick. So yeah, I'm trying to see when this came out. It came out in March. Oh, it actually came out March 31st, 2023. So I was actually busy that day. I was getting married. But so I watched it later, I think maybe in like August or September on streaming. And I've already said enough streaming services, so I'm not going to shout them out. But it was one of the funniest movies that I saw this year. It was probably the third funniest movie I saw this year. And I was absolutely cracking up the whole time. The ensemble had fantastic chemistry and played off each other so well. Chris Pine, he's a star. He was awesome. He was the highlight for sure. But Regé-Jean Page, Justice Smith, Michelle Rodriguez, Hugh Grant, they all held their own. They were awesome. Sophia Lillis, probably missing a couple people, but they were so good. And the Bradley Cooper appearance was so unexpected for me. I was not expecting that at all. I love Bradley Cooper, so that was funny. Really good CGI visuals, and this is one of those movies that I watched it, which I know every movie is like, oh, we want to become a franchise, we're going to become a universe, and that some movies just shouldn't. Most movies just shouldn't. This movie, I hope it becomes a franchise. I hope it gets a sequel, because there's just so much they can do with the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Number 9, Killers of the Flower Moon. So, I was honestly skeptical for this movie, and let me tell you why. I had a feeling it was going to be good because Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, right? That's a pretty winning trio right there. But the premise, I wasn't sure if it was the kind of premise that was going to appeal to me, especially for how long the movie was. But I will say it didn't feel near as long as it was, which is obviously really impressive when movies can do that. Leonardo DiCaprio was obviously incredible, but the real star of this movie was Lily Gladstone, who played Molly. I don't think this was her first role, but she's not as experienced as some of the other actors in the movie, and she was able to hold her own and go toe-to-toe with Leonardo DiCaprio, with Robert De Niro, which does not seem like it would be an easy thing to do. And this was just overall a good movie. Number 8. Oh, also Oklahoma. That's cool. Number 8, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. So there's not really a reason for me to be telling you this. I'm just going to tell you for funsies here. But a little backstory for me on this movie. I had never seen any of the Mission Impossible movies, but I was asked by Destiny, my wife, her grandpa, asked me, my brother-in-law, and their cousin if we wanted to go see this movie. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I love seeing movies. But I hate going to see a movie if it's a sequel and I haven't seen the ones that come before it. So we were going to go see it on July 13th, which was a Thursday. So July 11th, that Tuesday, I watched Mission Impossible. July 12th, I watched Mission Impossible 2 and Mission Impossible 3. And then July 13th, the Thursday, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I watched them at work because I was able to. I watched Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol and Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Then when I got home, as soon as I got home, I started Mission Impossible Fallout. As soon as I finished it, I left and went to the movie theater, watched Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. So that just tells you a little bit about my life and what I do. But so there's no reason for me to tell you that other than the fact that it was a really funny experience to watch all of them. And I'm really glad I did. I think Dead Reckoning was one of the top entries. It's off the top of my head, it's in the top 2 to 3 for me. Probably, I'd really have to look and see. I mean, one bad thing about watching them all like that is I can't. They kind of run together a little bit. But the action in this was obviously top tier. The cast was incredible. I'm very excited for Mission. Well, I was gonna say Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2, but I actually think that they just announced that maybe it's not going to be called that, which is kind of funny that this one's called Part 1 and that one might not be called Part 2, but whatever. Number 7 was, I finished off the year strong. Last movie I saw of 2023 was Wonka. I think the songs were so fun. The visuals I think were really good. The writing I thought was great. The ensemble was awesome, specifically Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa and Olivia Colman, Rowan Atkinson, Keegan-Michael Key, the 3 members of the Chocolate Cartel. I don't know those actors' names off the top of my head. And then Kala Lane, I believe is how you say it, and she played Noodle. I thought she did great. But for me, there's one reason that this movie ranked so high, and it is Mr. Tillemy Shillemy, Timothy Chalamet himself. I think he perfectly filled the shoes of Willy Wonka. Maybe not everyone shares that opinion, and that's okay. That's just my opinion, and I loved him in this movie. So there you go. Number 6 is Air. So I feel like this movie did not get the hype it deserved. I know it did better on streaming than it did in theaters, but it was just such a good movie, such a cool story. I wish it would have gotten more hype and more praise. I love Matt Damon. He was so good in this movie. I don't think he'll get an Oscar nomination just because there's a lot of strong performances this year, and I don't know if he necessarily should. But I think this is one of his best performances. Ben Affleck, Viola Davis, Jason Bateman all gave great performances. This movie, so I was talking about White Men Can't Jump earlier, and this doesn't even have anything to do. It doesn't have anything to do with basketball. It's the nostalgia, right? So I was talking about with the new White Men Can't Jump, it felt more relatable to me. I understood the references. The old one it didn't feel nostalgic, even though I wasn't alive. It didn't feel nostalgic. It felt dated. But I think it's possible for something to feel nostalgic even if you weren't there. Air felt nostalgic for the 80s, which is, I wasn't there, obviously, for the early 80s. Don't even know that much about them. I know a lot about the sports that were going on, but I don't know that much about the early 80s. But it felt nostalgic. If you didn't watch this movie, I think you need to. I think it's a must-watch from 2023. Go watch it. I think it's so impressive that they were able to tell a story that's, I mean, in a nutshell, the easiest way to describe it, about Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan didn't even appear as a character. Like, I know he kind of did from behind, but he didn't. He was not a character in the movie, and that to me is even more impressive. Number 5 is Oppenheimer. So, I feel like some of these upcoming movies that I'm like in this list here, I don't really need to talk about that much, even though it's my top 5, just because, I mean, they're all pretty well known. And so, some people may think that Oppenheimer at 5 is a little low. I don't think it is. I think these top 5 are really close. They're all really good. They're all some of my favorite movies that I've ever seen. Like in my top 4, all of them would be in my top 25 favorite movies, and Oppenheimer would be pretty darn close. Like this was such a good year for movies, I believe. Anyways, I think this movie is going to be winning a lot of awards soon. I'm going to be doing Oscar nomination or an Oscar prediction video once nominations are out and I'm able to watch the movies that I haven't been able to watch yet. So I'm not going to get too much into that, but I will say this is not my predictions. This is me probably saying I think Cillian Murphy should probably take home an Oscar for this movie. I think Christopher Nolan should probably take home an Oscar for this movie. I think it will win editing awards and sound design. Like it was so good. The lead up to the explosion was just, to me, the most impressive part of this movie, how it made it this big thing, and then you expect this big loud bang, and then it was just silence. And then it's delayed, and then the bang. Oh my gosh. It was just such good storytelling, such good filmmaking. Emily Blunt and Robert Downey Jr., I think maybe both will be in the runnings for the Oscar, but again, we'll leave that for another video. This movie is 3 hours long. And I said earlier that Killers of the Flower Moon, the impressive thing was that it didn't feel like it was. This did feel like it was 3 hours long, but not in a bad way. I just mean there was so much to take in, but they made it palpable. They made it to where you could take it in. It wasn't just throwing so much at you to where it was just like, whoa. It was, you were able to take it in. So I don't mean that in a bad way. The ensemble was insane. Like I said, I loved Matt Damon. I already talked about Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr. They were great. I love Matt Damon. I thought he was really great. And then there was a lot of actors who either had a decent amount of screen time, maybe like Josh Hartnett, is the one I feel like that I haven't mentioned that I thought did great. And then there was Florence Pugh, another one, had more screen time. Then there were some actors that had not as much screen time, but I thought were so good. Rami Malek, Kenneth Branagh, Josh Peck, Alden Ehrenreich, David Dastmalchian, Jack Quaid, Gary Oldman. They all just gave like Gary Oldman, like I literally think was in the movie for like 30 seconds, but it was like I thought it was so good, the addition of him. It didn't feel it never felt distracting to me. And I think this is definitely a must-watch movie. Like I said, it's going to be winning a lot of awards. I think the Golden Globes maybe were yesterday, maybe they're today, maybe they were a couple days ago, maybe they're in a couple days. I don't know. The only one I really keep up with is the Oscars. But if this didn't win a bunch of Golden Globes, I have a feeling it's going to win a bunch of Oscars. Number 4, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I genuinely think that this could be and will be nominated for Best Picture. Like I would not be shocked at all. Oscar nominations are announced, and this is one of the few animated movies to ever be nominated for Best Picture. It is that good. That being said, it's not even my favorite animated movie this year. I think it was the best animated movie of this year, but it wasn't my favorite. The Spider-Verse films, the main thing for me that I love is not even the animation. The animation is phenomenal. Some of the best I've ever seen, if not the best. But that's not even the main thing that I love. It's the voice acting. All the great actors that did it so great in the first movie came back. Specifically, I mean, Shameik Moore obviously is Miles. And then Haley Steinfeld and Jake Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry. And I just forgot the name of the woman who voices Rio, his mom. Let me pull that up just so I can give her praise as well. Lauren Velez. Oscar Isaac, obviously. He was only in a little bit of the first one, but he did so good. And then there were so many new additions that were so good. Jason Schwartzman, Karan Soni, Issa Rae, and the standout, obviously, was Daniel Kaluuya as Hobie or Spider-Punk. Gosh, this was just such a good movie. I'm so excited for the next one, and I think this movie is worthy of all the praise that it's receiving. Number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So I think this is one of the best MCU films. Like, it might be top 5, if not top, like, 2 or 3 for, not top 2, top 3 for me. It's so emotional, which is it's the most emotional of any Marvel movie, not just MCU movie. I think any Marvel movie. My wife is not a crier in movies. She also hadn't even seen all the movies leading up to this movie, but this made her cry because it was that emotional. It was so good. Bradley Cooper carried this movie. No offense to all the other actors, they did great, but Bradley Cooper just took it to another level with just his voice performance as Rocket. The animation that they did of Rocket, of him when he was younger and he was so cute, and then when he was older and all the things going on were so good. The story was so heartfelt, and I think it gave all of the characters either a great ending or a great story to lead into, which I know that MCU, their thing for their past 10 movies, if not more, has just been leaving loose ends. But I think this movie tied up a lot of loose ends, and it left some doors open for some characters, but it also left them with, if we never see these characters again, it gave them what will be good endings. One of my favorite movies ever. I loved it. Number 2 is Barbie. So I'm not sure if there's anything that I can say about this movie that hasn't already been said. I mean, it was in my top 25 favorite movies ever, video that I released a few months ago. Ryan Gosling gave one of my favorite performances that I've ever seen in any movie ever. Like, I need to do that sometime, figure out what my top 10 favorite performances are in movies. I'm going to write that down. But I'll tell you this right now, spoiler alert, I don't know where it'll be, but Ryan Gosling as Ken is going to appear somewhere on that list. Top 10 favorite performances. Okay. Anyways, sorry about that. Sorry about my distraction there. Anyways, another thing for me on how I rank movies that I enjoy, not the best movies, because remember this is my rankings. I don't know if I said that earlier. My rankings of how much I enjoyed these movies, not which of these movies are the best. But one of the things that I look for in a movie I enjoy is rewatchability. And I think this movie has some of the best rewatchability of maybe any non-Christmas movie. Again, going to leave it for another video, but I think Margot Robbie should be a legit contender for that Oscar for Best Actress. And I think there will be a couple other nominations for Ryan Gosling and America Ferrera, and those are just acting ones. I think it'll get a lot of other nominations as well, and some wins as well. But the supporting cast, like I said, America Ferrera, Michael Cera was great, Issa Rae was great, Kate McKinnon was great. The girl that plays the daughter, Ariana Greenblatt, was great. Simu Liu was great. This is fantastic, hilarious, entertaining movie, and I will die on that hill. And you know what? You are Kenough. Number one, my favorite movie of 2023. If you watched my top 25 favorite movies of all time, this is not going to be a shock to you because this was in my top 10. I want to say maybe I had it at like 6 or 7, but I don't remember off the top of my head. It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. So, talking about nostalgia, we've talked about nostalgia with Air and White Man Can't Jump. This movie was nostalgic for me in the sense that Ninja Turtles was my favorite thing growing up. I loved it. This is by far, not even close, the best Ninja Turtles movie. It's like there's some really bad Ninja Turtles movies. There's some pretty decent ones that I think are only good because I really love the Ninja Turtles. And then there's this one. It's just not even a tier above. It's tiers above the other ones. It's so good. I think it's the funniest movie that I saw this year. Barbie is up there and Dungeons and Dragons is up there. Those are the top 3. But I think Ninja Turtles was the funniest movie I saw this year, which I was hoping it would be funny, but I wasn't expecting it to be as funny as it was. The voice acting was so great from the 4 young actors that played the Turtles and all the rest of the ensemble with older, experienced actors that they brought in, that it wasn't distracting that it's like, oh, that's Jackie Chan. Oh, that's John Cena, which I know it's because it was voice acting. Oh, that's Ice Cube, Post Malone. But they all did so good. Paul Rudd, everyone. Love the animation. Obviously, I love the characters. It was familiar characters, not just to me, but to a lot of people. But it was a fresh take on those characters. It was a fresh story. And I think this will be a movie that I often find myself going back to. And I can't wait to rewatch it again. And those are my top... Not my top movies. Those were all the movies that I saw in 2023, all the new movies. I think total, I saw 175 movies in 2023. 34 of them were new movies that came out. A lot of them were new to me, but new movies that came out, and this is my list. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I want you to, if you're watching this, I don't typically do this because my videos don't usually get tons and tons of views. If you made it this far, I want you to comment below what either your favorite or your top couple favorites movies from 2023 were, or your least favorite. Just tell me something, what your favorite movie or least favorite movie that you saw were. Anyway, I'm excited for 2024. I'm excited for the Oscar nominations to come out. I'm excited for the Oscars to see how that goes because I think it'll be a fun award season. And I'm excited for all the fun movies coming out in 2024. I haven't seen any new 2024 movies yet, but I'm sure we'll be seeing that video in about a year. So, anyways, stay tuned for more videos coming soon. Happy New Year to everyone. Peace.